Daily Dodge TV studios, here's Terry Bell for today's community comment.
Thank you so much, Jake, and welcome everybody to Community Comment. Our guest today is Waupun Fire Chief B.J. DeMaa, and we're getting into the summer time of year, which brings with it its own unique fire hazards. So we're going to talk about staying safe in the warm weather months. If you have a question or a comment for B.J., please give us a call. You can call us or text us at 920-887-9595, or you can call the WBEV studio line at 885-4446. Welcome to the program.
Glad to be back, Terry.
Good to have you back. And as I mentioned, it's summertime, so that means grilling and fireworks and all kinds of stuff that are great, but carry risks with them.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, Memorial Day is right around the corner, kind of that unofficial kickoff to summer, and just always a great time of year to remind people on the dangers that can come with grilling. So you'll start to see a lot of family events and gatherings, and this is about the time of year that we start to see call volume pick up as a as a result of grilling-related incidents.
Absolutely. And I imagine the rules in Waupun are pretty similar to most other places.
Yeah, they really are. You know, we've got, I guess, not exactly the conventional grilling that you would think with, either a gas or charcoal, but even grilling that you would do over like an open fire. A lot of communities do have burning regulations in terms of it's got to be somehow in like a burn ring or a burn pit. You're limited in size, wanting to make sure that the wood, what we would call clean wood, so it hasn't been painted, stained, it's not treated with anything. Those are some of the burn requirements or restrictions that you'll usually see in communities.
Certainly. Also, things like keeping your grill at least 10 feet away from buildings, not grilling inside, even a garage. Even if the garage door is wide open, grilling in a garage is not a great idea.
Yeah, it's not, and we've had calls, going back to your first point of keeping the grill a safe distance away from, whether it's the house or if you've got the grill on a deck. Anytime it's near combustibles, it can present a problem. Sometimes you do a good job of making sure the grill is far enough away from those things while you're grilling, but you put it back too quick. And we've had some situations where the grill gets put back too close to the house too quickly, and it ends up burning or melting the siding off the house. Or it starts a wood handrail on fire on the deck. So, yeah, making sure you're very aware of how close the grill is when you're cooking, when you're done. How warm is it before you put it away. Any type of cooking. Whether it's a gas grill, a charcoal grill. We get into Thanksgiving or the fall, you start thinking of your turkey fryers. Any of that stuff, anytime you're doing it inside a structure, usually just a recipe for disaster. It's too easy for something to end up where you don't want it, or something goes wrong and now all of a sudden, you're dealing with a garage fire.
For sure. I'm also thinking, and I don't mean to kind of throw a curveball at you, but talk of grilling makes me think of tailgating. Most tailgating that I'm thinking of would be happening, if you pack up the car and go to American Family Field in Milwaukee. It seems like there's some good things to do to make sure you stay safe there. You see the charcoal receptacles, the big concrete giant containers for that. When it comes to grilling at home, is it okay to just let the coals cool off in the grill, or should you be like taking them out and putting them in water or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm glad you bring up the charcoal, because that is something that we do see. I would almost say probably more frequently than anything else. And people start out with great intentions. They'll use their charcoal grill. You're done. You wait a day or two, or you put it in a metal pail. But the mistake they'll make then is they dump it into usually their plastic trash receptacle, and Charcoal can be very, I don't want to say funny, but charcoal, it can look cold, it can feel cold, but when you dump those coals out and it stirs that up, it gives it more oxygen again. It is amazing how long charcoal you can think it's out the last time you would have used it, to dumping it into a trash can, and it will reheat. And we've had multiple those big plastic containers that sit out at the curbside that have disappeared because they start on fire and melt entirely.
So what do you recommend people do, after they're done cooking their meal?
Yeah, the best bet is, if you can dump water on it, again, try and spread it out. Anytime you leave it in a pile, that kind of allows it to kind of do that just real slow, really kind of a smoldering burn. So water, and then again, spreading it out, let it dry good. And then we always say, whenever your trash is being picked up, put it in the trash receptacle that morning so that it's out and gone right away.
And there's not just charcoal grills. People love their smokers, and you have these really high-end grills. I'm thinking of these green egg type contraptions. Do they pose any different hazards than the regular Weber grill we all think of?
Yeah, I mean, I think in some regards they do. I can't say we've had a ton of experience with the smoker-style grills, but you're still using heat. Some of those are fed with wood pellets or different types of pellets. So you still have heat. You still have, some type of a fire that's involved. So it is important, and even outside of the basic, charcoal, gas, whether smoker, we always talk to people about making sure you're going through annual cleaning, or if you're using your grill a lot, you may have to clean it a couple times throughout the year. Grease accumulation on those is no different than a stove in your house. The more grease that's there, the more likely that it is to start a fire.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. We need to take a quick break here, but we'll be right back. You're listening to Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge. Thank you very much, Jake, and welcome back to Community Comment. We're talking about staying safe in the summertime with Waupun Fire Chief B.J. DeMaa. And we have a caller on line one. Caller, you're on Community Comment with Waupun Fire Chief B.J. DeMaa.
Hi, BJ. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, Terry?
I'm excellent, thank you.
My question is, how can you tell if a fire is by accident or by arson? And I want to say thank you for your service. I'm going to hang up and listen to your answer.
Excellent. Sounds like he's asking about investigations. How can you tell whether a fire was set intentionally or not?
Yeah, so there's, a number of different things that we always look at, and it's usually input from a lot of different sources. So, in our department, it's usually a command vehicle that's going to be on first or on scene first, and then we'll have our firefighters, what we call our first in firefighters. So it's a lot of interviews, witness statements. What were people seeing beforehand? What did our command vehicle, what did they see when they got there? What did our firefighters see when they were inside? And then it's a lot of science involved in that. You're trying to determine, well, okay, what are the potential sources that could have ignited this? And really, everything is based on a hypothesis. Whatever you think may have been the cause, you need to be able to prove that. If you can't prove it, then you need to keep looking. So, there's a number of different things we can look at. How did the fire burn? Did it look like it was in one place? Do we have multiple spots where this is burning? And, sometimes you can just look around the room and say, this just doesn't, the pieces aren't matching up. In terms of even sometimes what some of the witness statements would be, what you're describing just doesn't seem to align with what our team saw when we got there, when they were inside, what the burn patterns show. So there's a ton of stuff that goes into trying to determine what the fire cause was, where it originated, and then, do we think that foul play may have been involved?
Can you tell us any signs? What would a investigator see that would make him or her go, I think this is kind of fishy, that a civilian like me would not be able to, suss out?
Yeah, so we've had calls in the past in the city of Waupun where up in the attic in the middle of the room was an origin. There was nothing up in the attic that would have said, okay, that's where a fire should start. So we did more work and more investigation in that, we ended up finding out, well, there had been a pile of combustibles that was put in the center of the room and somebody lit it with a match. And so that would be one example. If people are using accelerants, there's a lot of things that even after, much of the contents can be destroyed. If accelerants are used, there's usually indicators that we can find on the floor. If we work with the state fire marshal's office, they've got accelerant sniffing dogs that if we do suspect, okay, we think this may have been something at play, they can bring these dogs in and the dog will hit on, if gasoline or some other accelerant was put on the floor. The dogs will be able to sense that.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much, caller. And if you have a question or a comment for BJ, you can call us or text us at 920-887-9595, or you can call the WBEV studio line at 885-4446. Let's talk about National EMS Week.
Yeah, a great opportunity this year. May is actually a month that is jam-packed with different recognition weeks.
Seems that way, yeah.
This particular week is National EMS Week, and really just a great opportunity to recognize the members on our team that are focused on medical emergencies throughout the community. For a lot of fire-based EMS, so that would be departments that run EMS through their fire department. It's probably anywhere from 70 to 80% of their total call volume. So It is a lot of the work that folks do, and it's a very difficult thing because you're working with folks that are in discomfort, are not having a very good day, and sometimes they can do a really good job at explaining to us what's going on, and in other cases it's more difficult to tell. And it takes a lot of training and really a lot of listening to your patient to be able to kind of start putting those pieces together and try to troubleshoot what's going on with the person they're working with.
Do you have a large number of volunteer EMS staff in Waupun?
Yeah, so we've currently got 10. We're looking to hire more, but we work alongside Lifestar EMS. They're our contracted ambulance service in the city, so in most cases, the calls that we're on together, we're kind of there in a support role that can be helping with some of the vitals, can be helping, carry equipment back and forth. Sometimes it's helping even move the patient. But then there's situations where, as call volume goes up, they cover a fairly large area up by us. So if they don't have an ambulance available, we've got the ability to load the patient into our ambulance and get them to a hospital or what we would call definitive care more quickly.
Talking to you, over the years and your colleagues, I've really developed an appreciation for the importance of business owners and businesses to be supportive and understanding of their employees who are volunteer EMTs and the need for them to maybe have to leave at a moment's notice.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Terry. It probably the most critical part. I would say that is next in the list of importance in terms of, one, we've got to have people that are willing to do the job in volunteer roles, but it is the employers are absolutely next in that line of if we didn't have employers that allowed people to leave, the volunteer fire service just could not exist. There's no doubt about it. And the reality is full-time, yes, it has its place, but not all communities can afford the price tag that comes along with that. So, you can never give enough thanks, enough appreciation to our businesses that do allow their folks to leave to be able to help their community in times of need.
How about the people themselves, whether they be part-time paid staff or volunteers, unpaid? It seems to be a great way to give back to your community, but it's a lot of sacrifice too.
It is, yeah. It's a wonderful way to give back to the community. If you've got a heart for wanting to help people, I always say whether it's on the fire side, whether it's the EMS side, whether you want to do both, there is no better feeling than when a person was just in a terrible spot, you were there to help. But yeah, you're right. It's a huge commitment. That is one of the challenges that face your volunteer organizations today, and it's not exclusive to fire and EMS. Look around any organization that requires volunteers to make it work. People live very busy lives today, and for those that have families, there's a commitment to I want to be able to see my kids play their sports, and that family time is different today than what it was 20, 30 years ago. So it's one of the big challenges that we're up against today.
For sure. We need to take a quick break for the news, but we'll be right back. You're listening to Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge.
Ashley,
Right back into the action here with Terry Bell in the Daily Dodge TV studios. And here is Terry Bell.
Thank you very much, Jake, and welcome back to Community Comment. Our guest today is Waupun Fire Chief B.J. DeMaa. We're talking about staying safe in the summertime. It's a great time of year, but like winter, summer also brings its own unique hazards, especially when it comes to safety and fires. If you have any questions about that, we invite you to be a part of the program. You can call us or text us at 920-887-9595, or you can call the WBEV studio line at 885-4446. It's always a good time of year to make sure your smoke alarms are working and your other devices, safety devices around the house. Let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, we're not too far away from kids being done with school, and they may end up having some more free time at home. So we talk primarily 2 times a year, right? When we change our clock, change your batteries and your smoke detectors. But I think it can be some of that in between stuff that does get missed, and it's making sure that we do the monthly tests. And probably one of the most important things is making sure that we're practicing our escape plans. especially now with kids being home potentially alone a little bit more. You want to make sure they know what to do if something were to happen.
Is there anything you suggest to families who, I mean, if I were a dad with a family, I would have no idea how to come up with an escape plan, or is it simpler than I'm thinking it is?
Yeah, I think in the grand scheme of things, it's simple. We always say 2 ways out of every room. So it can be easy to identify the door that you come in and out every time, and then a window. And one of the things we always talk with the children about when we meet with the schools in October during Fire Prevention Week, how many of you are or have your bedroom in a second floor? And we'll usually see enough hands go up that there's a little bit more thought that needs to go into second floor bedrooms, because it's not as simple as if there's a fire in the hallway outside my bedroom, I can't go through the door. But I can't just open the window and jump out that either, being in a second floor room. So, there's some things there. They've got a lot of tools. You think of the ladders, the chain ladders that you can hook over the window ledge, and you can climb down. But we never want the first time a child's going to be using that to be an actual fire.
Right.
Can we practice doing that? When the weather's nice and when there's no fire. Let the child get used to climbing down it, because it's not the same as climbing a regular ladder. It's moving, and but yeah, those are some of the things. It's really the concept of 2 ways out of every room. So whether it's a bedroom, whether it's dining room, kitchen, living room, making sure those ways are identified, and then when we get outside. It's really as simple as, what is our meeting place? I talked earlier about when we have a fire, there's usually going to be a command vehicle that shows up first. And my first question is always going to be, is everybody out of the house? And the only way to know that is having a central meeting place where, let's say 3 of the 4 family members can come out the front door, but there's that one that had to go out the bedroom window. Making sure, yes, everybody is out of the house, and now we can start working on trying to solve the problem when we get there.
Talk to me a little bit more about this ladder. So I'm picturing a child's second-story bedroom. There's a door to the hallway and maybe a window on the opposite wall, but there's a fire and the door to the hallway is blocked.
Yep.
Cannot be. So how do they get out the window then?
Yeah, so like I said, there's multiple manufacturers that make it's a hanger that basically hangs over the windowsill, and that kind of locks it in there, and then the steps just are all connected to a chain. The chains form the rails, and then you've got little, usually metal rungs that you'll step on as you come down, but it makes it quickly adjustable by height. There's probably 15, 20 feet of chain, so it's plenty that's going to get you down to the ground. But it's making sure that the child, do they understand how to unfold it so that they can hook it to the window? And then, probably the most challenging part is those first couple steps where you're working your legs outside the window and making sure that you're not going to just tumble to the ground.
So this ladder is stored inside the room most of the time, except when you need it. Then you open the window.
Correct.
And okay,
Yep.
all right. That would be a great thing to have.
Yeah.
I know when it comes to smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, I think in a lot of newly built homes, those are wired into the electricity of the home. They're not battery operated anymore. Does that mean you don't have to check them frequently?
Yeah, no, I mean, the same requirements apply. We always encourage folks, check them monthly. One of the big things, though, is, some people do mistake, there's a plug that goes to the back of my smoke detector. It's interconnected. There are no batteries. There are actually batteries in all of those. In the event that power were to go out, the detector is still going to function during those periods of time. So we always encourage folks to make sure, even on those devices, there is a battery. Usually on those, because it does run on the regular house power, For the majority of the time, those can be changed out once a year rather than the 2 times a year. But on the interconnecteds, you're still dealing with the same roughly 10 years is when it's recommended that the smoke detectors get changed out. And it's usually just a matter of going down to your local hardware store. They should have those types of devices that you can get them replaced and rehung.
Very good. I know you also wanted to talk about the safest way to have your door at night when you're asleep.
Yeah, so when we talk about, in fact, I took a call yesterday. Where should I have my smoke detectors in the house? And current code would call for one on every level of the house, one within 6 feet of your sleeping quarters. So if you think, the hallway outside your bedrooms, and then one in every bedroom. And the thought there is we call it close before you doze. And the smoke in today's fires is so toxic that it truly can be a matter of a couple breaths before it can render you unconscious. So the thought between, a lot of people say, well, one in the hallway outside the bedrooms and then one in every bedroom, that kind of seems like overkill. Well, when you think of it from the concept of having your bedroom door closed at night when you sleep, the detector in the hallway is going to alert you to a fire that's going on there. That closed bedroom door is going to give you more time to be able to figure out how am I going to get out of my bedroom. And then, if something does happen within one of the bedrooms, that's why the detector is in there as well, to alert others that, there's something going on in that room.
Okay, that's good to know, because I think if I'm an indication, a lot of people would assume that having the door open was the way to go, but you recommend closing your bedroom door.
Yeah, and it's, if you go on YouTube and just, type in close before you doze, it is alarming, some of the videos and images that they've got of how the hallway outside the bedroom is just completely destroyed. Walls are smoke stained down to the floor, and you walk into the bedroom and there's maybe a little bit of smoke staining around the door trim. Otherwise, you would never know there was a fire outside that bedroom.
Goodness.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Well, we need to take one last break, but we will be right back. You're listening to Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge. Thank you very much, Jake, and welcome back to Community Comment. Our guest today is Waupun Fire Chief B.J. DeMaa. We still have a few minutes, so there's time to join the program. If you have a question or a comment, you can call 920-887-9595. You can also text that number. You can also call the WBEV studio line at 885-4446. Well, let's kind of clear up some misconceptions and get some good facts out there, BJ. What's one fire safety mistake that people make all the time?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is just a failure to plan. We talked about smoke detectors today. We talked about, grilling safety. And maybe it's just the world that we live in, but I think as firefighters and emergency medical providers, we live in a world where we kind of look what's the worst thing that could possibly happen, and I see far too often that it truly is. I never thought it would happen to me. Well, it can, and something very simple. Could have resolved it. I'll use fire extinguishers as a perfect example.
Yes, please.
Having fire extinguishers around your home. If some small fire starts, what better way is to put it out is to know I've got a fire extinguisher. It's in my garage, and I go grab that off the wall, and the fire's out, and the problem's resolved there. Versus, oh man, I don't have the garden hose out yet. I don't have a fire extinguisher, and now we're dealing with a garage that's burning.
Oh my gosh, yeah, good point.
Yeah.
What's something that EMS providers wish that the public knew?
It's probably how passionate they are of wanting to help with whatever the incident is. EMS, it's such a unique profession, and for the folks that do it, they truly do have such a sincere heart, and they really care about each and every patient that they are working with. I don't know that folks always necessarily realize that there is a connection that you form every time you work with a patient.
Certainly, and I think we're seeing this in a lot of rural communities too, maybe. But EMS, they're getting a lot of calls about things that normally wouldn't be in their purview. In fact, it's kind of by necessity. Some people have no one else to call. Yep. But EMS, if maybe even they're feeling sick or something, there's a concern that being out on these kinds of calls can compromise response time to fires or car crashes or something. I don't want to sound rude or anything, but do people misuse 911 or EMS to an extent? Or am I?
I think the easiest answer is yes.
Okay.
And I do agree. It becomes a very difficult topic to talk about because you are correct. There are individuals that, within a community, you think of, okay, I'm not feeling well. I need to get to the hospital. 911 and the ambulance service just becomes the immediate answer. And if you look back in history, it's not the intent of what the 911 system and what EMS was designed for. It truly was designed for those instances where it truly is that medical emergency where this individual needs some level of care before they get to the hospital in order to try and increase or sustain, make sure that the condition isn't going to get worse, that has a potential negative outcome out of the incident. Now we do find plenty of calls where you're really operating as the glorified taxi service, if you will. You're just the transportation piece to get to the hospital. And I think the important thing, for some people to realize is, you know, whether you come in via ambulance or whether somebody drives you to the hospital, just because you came in via the ambulance doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be seen for your medical issue any quicker than coming into, you know, in a regular car.
Yeah, it's a tough topic, but I think it's an important one to talk about because it happens.
It is. It's, you know, and I think, again, it goes back to the heart of we're there to help, and we want to be there to help, but the reality is yes, it does, in those instances, it has the possibility of detracting from a true emergency that is out there.
Sure, sure. What's one thing that every home ought to have?
I'll go back to the two basics. Smoke alarms, I'll, you know, piggyback carbon monoxide detectors on that as well, and then fire extinguishers. I think those are the two most basic tools that just every home has to have.
Sure. What's the busiest holiday weekend? We're coming up on a holiday weekend. Is there one that's like the busiest of the year for fire and EMS?
Yeah, I feel like for us in our area, 4th of July, and again, there's just so many different activities going on. You talk about your family picnics, so there's potential, you know, cooking issues, burn issues. Usually in the evening, we've got fireworks going off. You know, unfortunately, alcohol is usually involved in some of those cases, and it can just lead to this perfect storm of there's so many things that it touches all avenues, police, fire, and EMS.
That makes a lot of sense. What is the most rewarding part of your job?
It's just helping people. Like I talked about just a couple minutes ago, the relationships that you form with the people that you help, you know, even if you're only there for 5 minutes, you just, there is a connection.
Mm-hmm. Is there like a common misconception that people have about firefighters or EMS workers?
Boy, that's a hard one to answer.
Oh, okay.
If I had to say fire, it may be that, you know, well, they kind of just sit around and wait all day for calls. That's not the fact at all. There is a ton of training. When you talk, you know, fire specifically, I've said in the past that, you know, we almost do ourselves a bit of a disservice by calling ourselves the fire department because the scope of what we do is so much more broad than that.
I think you mentioned earlier that the majority of your calls are for medical emergencies, not fires.
Yep. For the agencies that do run EMS, yeah, you know, again, that probably 70 to 80+%. But even within the realm of fire, you know, the question I most commonly get, well, how many fires have you had lately? Well, yeah, I mean, our fire numbers, you know, they may go up or down a little bit, but by and large, they stay relatively the same year over year. But our call volume continues to go up because we're called to so many more things outside of just a fire.
Mm-hmm. You know, there are a lot of TV shows and movies about your profession. Is there any kind of wrong notions that people get from watching the movies and TV?
Yeah, I would just encourage people, what you see in a TV show, in a movie, the Hollywood portrayal of fire, EMS, and I would even say to the extent of law enforcement as well. It paints it in such an unrealistic
Is there any kind of trope that you see in these movies and TV shows that make you go, oh no, don't perpetuate that myth?
Yeah, fire. I'll use a sprinkler system as an example. You know, they'll show a fire in a building, and I mean every sprinkler head in the building is going off. That's just not how fire sprinkler systems work.
Okay.
There's an individual bulb in each sprinkler head, and they're based on a temperature. When the temperature rises to a point that it melts that bulb, water will start to flow from that single sprinkler head. And obviously, if the fire continues to get bigger, there will be other heads that are going to open up because the heat gets to that point. But It's not that a building with a sprinkler system, you're not going to walk in and see every sprinkler head in the place going off.
Okay.
That'd be just one real simple example.
Okay, very good. And with that, boy, we're already out of time. BJ, it's been time well spent. It always is. Thanks so much for joining us on Community Comment.
Thank you, Terry.
And thank you for listening to 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge.
Big Prods.